Have you ever just looked around and wondered why there are so many different kinds of Christian churches? You've got the huge, ancient cathedrals, and then you've got tiny storefront chapels right down the street. It can feel kind of overwhelming. Well, today we're going to dive into that world and try to build a clear map to make sense of it all. So let's just start with a number that is probably going to blow your mind. 45,000. No, that's not a typo. According to the Center for the Study of Global Christianity, that's about how many distinct Christian groups there are in the world right now. It's just a wild figure, and it immediately brings up the big question. How did one faith splinter into so many? That's the puzzle we're going to tackle today. All right, so here's our game plan for the next few minutes. We're going to start by defining our terms so we're all on the same page. Then we'll look at the history, the big splits. After that, we'll map out some of the key modern groups, get into why any of this actually matters today, and finally, we'll take a peek at the future. Now let's be super clear up front. Our goal here isn't to say one group is right and another is wrong. Not at all. Think of this more like we're cartographers or map makers. We're just giving you a clear, neutral guide to help you navigate this incredibly diverse world of belief. So before we can even start exploring the map, we gotta learn the language on it, right? You hear words like denomination, sects, and cults thrown around all the time, and frankly, they're often used incorrectly. So let's get the definition straight. You know, sociologists actually have really specific definitions for these. A denomination, that's a big established group, kind of mainstream. A cult, at least in the academic sense, is usually a newer group, often built around one charismatic leader. But sect, that one has a very specific meaning that is absolutely crucial for our journey today. And for our purposes, it's not a negative term at all. And here it is. A sect, by this definition, is simply a group that has split off from a bigger, more established church. And why? The motivation is almost always this core belief that they are getting back to a more original, a more pure form of the faith. This one idea, this is the engine that has driven so much of the diversity we see today. Okay, so how did this massive fragmentation even happen? I want you to imagine early Christianity as a single massive tree trunk. Over the centuries, major events happened that caused these huge branches to split off. And then those branches grew their own smaller branches, and on, creating this sprawling, complex canopy we have now. The first really big branch splits way back in 1054 with what's called the Great Schism. That's what separated the Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches. After that, the timeline just starts to accelerate. Then, boom, 1517, Martin Luther kicks off the Protestant Reformation, a total earthquake that created another massive branch. And it didn't stop. Later on, you get revivals like the Great Awakening in the 1700s and the Azusa Street Revival in 1906, which is basically the birthplace of modern Pentecostalism, and that created thousands of new offshoots. But at the very heart of this explosion, this whole branching process, was one revolutionary idea from the Reformation, sola scriptura, scripture alone. This principle put the Bible directly into the hands of regular people, saying it was the ultimate spiritual authority, not a pope, not a church tradition, just the text. Now that was incredibly empowering, but it also opened the door for countless different interpretations, and any one of those interpretations could become the foundation for a brand new sect. And that long history brings us right up to the present day. Now, we obviously can't cover all 45,000 groups. That would be insane. But we can map out a few of the major categories that have emerged from all these shifts, drawing from our source material, the Compendium of Modern Christian Sects. Okay, let's look at three major streams here. First, you have restorationist movements. These guys are driven by this desire to rebuild the original church, the one from the time of the apostles, and sometimes they even accept new scriptures. Then there's Pentecostalism, born out of that Azusa Street revival. This is all about having a direct, personal experience with God, which you see in practices like speaking in tongues. And finally, you have evangelism, a huge movement, which is centered on the Bible as the ultimate error-free authority and the idea that you need a personal born-again experience. So, we have all these different beliefs, different practices, but why does any of this actually matter outside of church on a Sunday? Well, it matters a lot, because these theological differences have very real, very tangible impacts on the world we all live in, every single day. You know, a quote from our source material just puts it perfectly. Belief isn't some private, internal thing. It is a blueprint for how its followers engage with the world. It's not just what people think, it's a guide for what they do. And this influence runs deep. I mean, think about it. A group's belief about how to interpret Scripture can directly shape how its members approach things like science, education, and schools. Theology informs their stances on major social issues, and that, in turn, influences how they vote. It fuels massive global humanitarian efforts, and it inspires whole genres of art and music. It's everywhere.
So we've traced the path from one faith to many. We've mapped some of the key differences, and we've seen why they matter. So the question is, what's next? Let's turn our attention to the future for a minute. Look, if there's just one thing you take away from all this, let it be this. The Christian landscape isn't some chaotic mess. It's a living, breathing ecosystem that has evolved over 2,000 years. Every single group represents a different answer to some of life's biggest questions, all born from this continuous and very human search for spiritual truth.
And this leaves us with one final fascinating question, especially for our hyper-connected age. Will this trend of fragmentation keep going, creating even more branches on the tree of faith? Or will our new global connectivity lead to more dialogue, more understanding, and maybe even find new ways for all these branches to reconnect? The next chapter in this 2,000-year-old story is being written as we speak.